once you started that and once you started seeing success, right, with that, right? Or because I'm a personal brand person, so I would love to know what made you want to get out there too, right? Like, so when you started your journey on LinkedIn and other places to get out there and you started getting on the circuit, right? Like where did that come from and how did that begin? And what's the coolest thing that's happened to you as you being on the circuit? What's one moment you like, man, mama, I made it.
Yeah. It's like it was about 4 years ago when I worked at this other tech company, I had this white dude who was just incredible, man. And he was my ghostwriter, right? So I can't write for shit. I'm not a copywriter. But he was ghostwriting stuff and James, and we decided to write this piece together. My CMO is this white woman was like, you got to put this piece out. And what the piece was is basically, I called it the Black quarterback effect in advertising, right? In short, essentially the fact that, Black executive creatives today are treated the same way Black quarterbacks in the 70s and early 80s were, which was like, nah, they're not smart enough to run the team. Because like creative director runs the fucking show. He's a quarterback. So it's like, no, they're not smart enough to run the show. We don't want them out here running, calling the shots and calling the plays. Let them go run the pass over here. Let them go run and jump. Let them go take the ball and sprint that way, right? So, I did this whole article about that, and I was really nervous about putting it out. And they both were like, no, like this has to, you got to put this out. So we put that out in a publisher called GeoMarketer. And it kind of took off. And that was kind of like when the first time I put my voice out there in association with like, what I saw as current problems. And so fast forward another year, I just started speaking my mouth and speaking openly on LinkedIn. And I did a post about ageism because everyone was posting this, 40 under 40 award, 30 under 30. And I was like, yeah, this is some bullshit. I was like, there's a lot of talent over 40. And I kind of just said some ignorant shit that ended up going crazy viral. And then Forbes magazine wrote an article about it, and Adweek wrote an article about it. Crazy. And it was like everything from there kind of took off. But what I learned from that moment was, wow, there's power in some of the shit that you can say, because people were sending me personal messages. Like I must have had like 50 to 100, not even kidding you, a day, where people are like, yo, thank you for writing this. It means a lot because of this. And like, I lost my job and I was, making $100,000 and now I'm working at Starbucks at night, and like crazy stories. And it made me think like, yo, if I could tap into people on this, then I need to spark something for Black people and brown people because like we see a real short end of this stick too. So I obviously started speaking my mind, and it just kind of one thing led to another, and just it's odd. People started listening, but I think it was because, in this pandemic, the past 2 years, we're in a moment where, people want to be heard, right? And people want to be seen. And what I've done really is I try to build community by essentially leading the horse to the water, right? I say things, I spark a topic. And it's interesting that I have this tendency of creating community in my comments, in my threads, where people feel comfortable and safe